Ghosts, spirits, phantoms, poltergeist. These are all names for ancient legendary entities that have haunted humanity from the very first kiss with death. But are these things true to reality? Or are these phantasms of the undead really floating among us? Tonight on this dreary Halloween The Forest's Edge paranormal investigators, Jake Fidler and Daniel Brabow take you to two haunted locations, the Northville Psychiatric Hospital and the Sashabaw Plains Cemetery, to look for answers. My name is McBain, and I ask the question, do you believe in ghosts? The first camera was invented in the late 19th century, and from there, we've exponentially evolved this device into a portal to new worlds. We've used these machines to fabricate reality into whatever we want it to be and tell stories that are impossible in reality. We call these movies, and that's the very thing we do at Forest's Edge. That being said, sometimes cameras can be tools to see what our eyes can't, showing us a world where ghosts and spirits may reside, but don't be fooled. Hollywood has sensationalized the paranormal world, creating fantasies to make you pee your pants or scream, throwing popcorn in the air. We've been doing it since the 1920s, with Nosferatu for example. But this genre has exploded with films like The Exorcist or Paranormal Activity. To say the least, we're all obsessed with these things we do not fully understand, but at this extreme end of the spectrum, there is another side. With the age of photographic imagery, perhaps we have caught true sightings of the dead alive. In 1926, in a country house located in England, a man named Hubert Provan captured one of the most compelling apparitions ever on camera. This is the iconic Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. Although there's been many skeptics over the almost 100 years, there's been no definitive answer as to if the image really does capture the spirit of Dorothy Walpole. In the current age, the technology of ghost hunting has exploded with hundreds of new devices that track down ghosts, from EMF detectors that supposedly read electromagnetic fields, EVP audio recorders that have ultra-sensitive microphones that pick up white ambient noise in the air, IR and thermal imaging cameras that see light the naked eye cannot, and apparently ghosts reside in. The technology we have in our investigations are EMF detectors, a spirit box which fluctuates through AM and FM radio signals at 100 milliseconds, and an EVP recorder. In our first investigation, we only had a camera on us, but in our second, we had these devices. Our first investigation takes us to the Northville Psychiatric Hospital in Northville, Michigan. This now abandoned building was once a place of mental healing during the 1950s, but slowly turned into an underfunded hellhole filled with abuse and even death. When the facility was built, it consisted of a main office building known as the Palace of Glass and a campus of over 20 buildings. It was well known for being a true place of healing, using music and on-site jobs for patients to heal. Slowly, the funding began to dry up and the patients were drugged and overcrowded. Close to the point before closing, many patients ended up sleeping in the gym as the housing units were worn down and abandoned. In the early 2000s, a reporter from Detroit found that the living conditions were appalling and the staff were abusing their patients. In 2002, the entire campus was closed down and abandoned, and over the course of 20 years, the city and many buyers struggled to find funding to tear it down. In March of 2022, Forest's Edge investigators entered the desolate buildings on search of the ghosts who wander the halls. This is what we found.
Walking through those halls was like stepping into a different world completely. 20 years of wear and decay is a long time and really puts into perspective. We went into at least 10 of the buildings that were still standing, including 5 housing units, the workshop, which I dubbed the Black Hole, the activity center, and a larger housing building. It's worth mentioning that all of these buildings have asbestos exposure. We conducted a few paranormal sessions to try and make contact with anything that was present. We didn't catch anything in our first session, but I thought it was strange that there was this table and 2 chairs. But I think we caught something during the second one.
If anybody's here, come take a seat next to me. Throw this door closed or open, or move a door, throw a brick at me. I don't know.
We were in a housing unit, and there was this couch set up in the middle of the room. I sat down on one end with the camera in the doorway, and Daniel was behind it. I was asking questions, trying to see if anything would move, if I'd hear anything. I didn't initially hear or see anything, but behind me was a window that was sealed shut by dust, dirt, and debris. There was no way any kind of wind or breeze would get through. It was a windy day that day, but then again, this window was sealed shut and no wind was coming through. Keep that in mind. Nearing the end of this session, the curtain that covered up this sealed window began to move as if someone was walking by. Mind you, Daniel was outside of the room. There was a hole in the wall, but again, everything was sealed shut. I can't explain why it would move the way it did. Perhaps an entity moved by? We'll never know.
Okay. All right, Daniel.
After this session, we explored a few more buildings, including the activity center. While we were in the gymnasium, we heard a loud bang come from inside the hall. We found a door that had slammed shut. We conducted an investigation, and however, we concluded that because of windows being shattered open, the wind was causing the door to slam shut.
Yeah.
The same thing would happen again as we exited the building from the auditorium.
Okay. All right. So as you're walking away, the door closed behind us. I think it's the wind.
So do I, but still.
It looked as if it was closed by someone behind us. So we'll see if the wind will close it again. Mind you, at the bottom there, look at that, look at that, look at that.
Oh, here it goes.
So it looks like the wind might be doing it.
Alright.
Yeah, I think it's the wind. Debunked.
After exploring the activity center, we made our way to one of the main housing buildings, Building C. In this facility, we found our most compelling evidence. We ventured down into the basement where no light creeped in. It was completely dark. All we had with us was a UV flashlight and my iPhone camera flash. I ended up leaving the camera behind and recorded a 10-minute walk around in the basement with my iPhone. I'll leave the 10-minute video at the end of this episode, but in the video, we saw something unexplainable. I truly don't know what to make of this image. When we went into this room, we didn't see anything. We saw a cot or a table with bottles, so I assumed it was a frequented room by partygoers and vandals. But after editing the video and looking frame by frame, this figure makes itself clear. I call him the Blue Man. It seems that this figure fades in, then out, as the UV light goes over it. If it was just a shadow, it would remain the same throughout the frame. I guess we'll never know. After exploring the dark basement, we went back to the room we originally did the investigation and tried again for a few more minutes. During the first few minutes, it was silent and oddly still. I ended up recording audio with my iPhone, but nothing was captured on it. However, nearing the end of the session, Daniel began feeling uneasy.
To say anything, do anything, now's your chance, because after this, we are leaving, and I don't know if we'll ever come back. So, with that said, hop a squat here if you want, move this door, throw something at me, whisper something, scream something, do anything, just to know that you're there.
Is that you?
is I felt somebody standing down the hall. That's all. I either fooled my mind into believing that I felt that somebody was standing down the hall, or I genuinely felt that somebody was standing down the hall. That's really what it comes down to. Whether I was fooling myself, whether it was just some pareidolia, or whether it was a genuine, sensitive moment, is entirely unmeasurable. I mean, there's nothing more to say than that. I felt somebody standing down there. I either fooled myself or I truly did. And whichever it was is up to interpretation.
Move a brick down here or something.
I swear to God, there's somebody standing down here.
I hear voices.
Yeah. Probably the other people.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Alright, we'll give you a couple more seconds and that's it. I know there are people coming, but we just want to help you. Alright, we're going to end this session now. If you are there, I hope you can move on. I know there's hurting here, so we hope you can move on. Goodbye.
Maybe.
Did my camera die?
No, it's still there.
Cool. So, in your opinion, do you believe that the Northville Psychiatric Hospital is haunted?
Yeah. Ghosts exist. Plain and simple.
What exactly are ghosts and spirits, whatever you want to call them? In my opinion, I believe that ghosts are like an apparition, or like the forming of residual energy from either trauma or anything like that. And it's coming back and making itself known through either, electromagnetic field, the space in the air, like the white noise that you can hear. What do you think ghosts are?
It's the most loaded question I've ever been asked. Ghosts can be just about anything. They can be the static behind the walls. They can be the voices in your head. They can be the energy caked on the walls of an abandoned mental facility, or they can be, the people buried in a cemetery. As long as energy is acknowledged, there will be spirits, because somebody is paying attention to something that doesn't exist in a physical form. And I think a ghost is just energy that doesn't exist in a physical form that human beings can see. That's all.
As of writing this episode, the city has funded enough money to tear this facility down and begin building Legacy Park, an outdoor park aimed at creating a safe environment for the community of Northville. The security has cracked down on trespassers, and recently a fire has broke out. The asbestos-littered buildings, which have barely hung on the past 20 years, are now being demolished, so any chance of going back to investigate further is no longer possible. But with the evidence we do have, the current moving, the blue man in the basement, and the energy felt, could Northville Psychiatric Hospital be a haunted location? We may never know. Our next investigation leads us to Sashabaw Plains Cemetery in Clarkston, Michigan. This cemetery was created in the mid-19th century, and some graves hold the bodies of those who founded the land nearby. There haven't been any investigations in this cemetery before, so there's no reason to believe it's haunted. However, after this investigation, that's all changed. With this investigation, there are two parts. The first investigative session was made around 9:30 to 10. The second was around 11 to 11:30 p.m. With new technological gear, this was a whole different experience than Northville.
We arrived at the cemetery's gates around 9:30ish. We made our intent very clear and set that gate as the boundary. We wanted the spirits, if there were any, to know we simply wanted to have a conversation, nothing more. Once inside, we decided to settle in without the camera equipment, but I did end up recording audio with an EVP recorder. We also had a K2 or an EMF detector going, but found that there wasn't anything detected. The one device that helped us was the spirit box, which we later found was also an ambient temperature gauge. We wandered into the middle of the cemetery and sat down at a gravestone asking questions. We did end up hearing answers through the spirit box.
And then we have an EVP recorder that's recording space in the air. And if you just talk into that, then we'll be able to hear you later on. Right. Yeah. No, that's exact.
It seemed there was 3 distinct voices. One was clearly a woman, and there were 2 men. Eventually, I decided I wanted to get my camera out and asked if that was okay, and got a very clear answer.
Do you want me to take out my camera? And record this session? Yes, I heard a yes. If you want us to bring this night vision camera here, hopefully to spot you. Go bring it. I did hear that. Alright, I'm going to turn this box off now, and then we'll be back. Go ahead. I don't know how to click.
So our investigators left the cemetery to grab a night vision camera. Upon returning, things quickly changed for the worst.
The graveyard did not feel spooky at first. Everything felt normal when we came back in. And then, as I was filming and as I walked away from you to shoot, it felt like somebody jumped on my back and there was just a static charge going down my spine. That's how it felt. It didn't feel threatening, it didn't feel scary, it just was extremely uncomfortable and a little invasive. But that's kind of how I felt we were being in the cemetery at the same time, so take that how you will.
As Daniel came around to where I was, I knew something was wrong. I brought my gear near him, and for some reason, and we didn't know this was a setting on the spirit box, the ambient temperature gauge turned on and it was fluctuating. After a couple moments, I started feeling like there was a static attached to my neck, and I knew in that moment that whatever was on Daniel was now on me. My whole body had chills and I started shaking. I wanted to throw up and cry and scream. It wasn't right. But it is worth noting that I was never really scared. It wasn't a frightening experience, more or less, or felt as if I was simply in an argument with someone. Eventually, I pulled my phone out and started taking a video.
What is? Who are you?
Who are you? Yeah, what's your name?
Lee?
No, it's not Lee. It's not Lee. It's not somebody from here.
Is this your resting place?
You walk back over here, and I'm telling you, there's something else floating around in here. There's like, it said 3, but it really is 1. It's one thing. Cemeteries, man, they've always got like a guardian spirit. I don't feel welcome here. I don't feel like I want to be
Alright,
here.
so obviously you're communicating through these beeps. If there is one of you, beep twice. Alright, stop beeping. If there is one of you, alright, stop beeping. Stop. Please. I don't actually know if this is actually a time to speak to us or not.
It's something coming up on us is what it is. It's something's white on us. That's what. Something's white on us.
Oh my god, I feel weird and sick.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's absolutely something's in here sapping our energy like a. We walked into some kind of hornet's nest. All right, I'm out. Yeah, I can't.
Alright, you can't come with us. You can't fucking come with us. What is your name? Before we leave, what is your name? What was that? Here, take this. All right, one last time. What is my name? My name. My name. What is my name? All right, we need to get the fuck out of here to say my name.
Did it?
It did.
I was happy to get out of that cemetery fast.
Is there anything else you want to add after all that?
Don't fuck with ghosts. That's what I want to add. Man, some scary ass shit.
You may be a skeptic of the paranormal, but you must know that both of these investigations were conducted in the utmost truth. Nothing was fabricated. So it's up to you to look at the evidence and make up your mind. Before these experiences, Jake was a skeptic. Now he's a believer. We thought that what happened to the cemetery would happen to the psychiatric hospital, but we've learned that the spirits with the most energy are where you least expect. If these things we call ghosts are genuine spirits of the undead, or just the residual energy of those who died in those locations, there's no doubt we felt it. We know our answers, but only you can decide for yourself. Do you believe in ghosts?